Hey everyone, Hermes of Reason here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to discuss how knowledge grows because this is, well, it's kind of the thing that I'm most excited to share with people, one of them anyway, and it's really important to know how we make progress, yet that seems to be very widely misunderstood. People just don't seem to know how progress actually works and how knowledge works correspondingly. So I want to try to break that down here today. I couldn't have done it without the help of these two guys, Karl Popper and David Deutsch. Popper is technically the one who discovered how knowledge grows. David takes that philosophy and applies it to other fields, something that Popper didn't himself go through much lengths to do. And so I'm going to be I would love to, I should say, break down more of their work in the future of these channels, and I think that their work will definitely be playing a very large theme moving forward here with the ideas. So, so getting right into it. So, the growth of knowledge. Most people think, I think usually kind of two things that our culture kind of has us think about knowledge. One of them is that we know things about the world by directly experiencing them. So, philosophers love to knock on their tables. It's this kind of direct experience, as it were, a really good example of what we intuitively think to be a direct experience of the world. We feel it, we hear the corresponding sound and whatnot, and we know that, given the feeling and the sound, it's like it is our observations justify the belief that the table exists, and that's one way of looking at knowledge. The other way is probably worse than that, actually. That objective reality doesn't exist. That the knocking of the table is really just ideas about kind of what to expect, and the world is really just kind of made of ideas. There really is no kind of difference between our ideas and objective reality. Everything is really, life is but a dream, something like that. And you might be able to call that Cartesian idealism. And then the other one you can call Baconian, Francis Bacon, and then Rene Descartes for idealism. Francis Bacon had his empiricism. And empiricism, again, is the idea that our experience of the world is direct, and that our knowledge is derived from that direct experience. So the thing that Karl Popper did that was actually, I would say, the greatest discovery in all of philosophy and science was solve the problem of induction that David Hume posed centuries earlier. And Hume, the roughly put version of this problem is, you see white swans over and over again, and so you're to conclude that swans are white, and you're probably not going to look for any other color of swans unless, you have that idea that you might be wrong all the time. But this common sense view of knowledge, when we repeat these experiences like the whiteness of a swan, this common sense tells us to basically entrench this idea, or we found the truth that swans are white. It encourages us to basically settle for this idea of there being white swans. And Hume was well aware of this. There's obviously a logical problem, because how can we discover anything new that we don't know if all of our knowledge comes from repeated experiences that are local to us and familiar? How do we ever get knowledge of the unfamiliar? Namely, a black swan, in that case. So this is a problem for that common sense view of knowledge, and Hume couldn't solve it at his time, or he couldn't think of the solution. Popper was the first one who did. So what Popper showed, as I was alluding to there, is that this process of looking at the swans and finding that there's a regularity with them and settling on that regularity is the wrong thing to do. It's the wrong step to take. For this very reason, Popper noticed that the traditional views of knowledge ask the question like this: how can we secure our knowledge and justify it in some kind of structure that we can hold immune from change because it's true, and the world, there are universal regularities in the world that don't change. And so we want to find out what those things are. Popper said, let's change the question not to how we can get it right, but how we might be getting it wrong, essentially. And so this change of the question view leads to just a complete, you might say, can of worms opened. A very, very tasty can of worms that is opened up by this question because, again, the justification process that we tend to use in how we make progress or improve our understanding of the world solidifies itself and isn't actually dynamic in the sense that it really tries to find what's true and then keep that and enshrine it, given its that it has certain authorities that it can appeal to, like experience or the pureness of an idea, depending on what the theory or the common sense view of how knowledge is acquired is to that person. So Popper did not only change the question, that is absolutely important, but what he did there is essentially show that this kind of radical idealism and radical empiricism, the idea that only ideas exist, and the idea that all of our experience of the world is direct, these things, these views of knowledge, Popper was able to sort of merge them in a coherent and tenable way, wherein he admits that, one, none of our experience of the world is direct. You could always be missing something. You could always be in a dream. There's no way of telling for certain that you are not in a dream. This is actually a major theme as well. Popper said that the quest for certainty is actually also counterproductive to the quest for truth, or the pursuit of truth, because seeking certainty is seeking a feeling, because again the feeling is that you've justified your belief, and this is what you learn in philosophy class, and again it's the common sense idea that we have something like justified true belief, and it's Plato who formulated this idea in such a way, and then Aristotle took it up a little bit, made it his own somewhat. Quick digression on Aristotle is that what he did is made our search for knowledge about the world into a search for definitions or essences of those things. So once we knew the true definition of the thing, then we knew what the thing was. Note that how it works and why do not really play much of a role in the inquiry. It's really just about what's the essence. And this is another thing that's very common, even for me in certain ways, still, having adopted these ideas since then, still trying to quibble over maybe what the real definition of something is. I really don't do that much anymore, but this, as Popper said, mistakens verbal problems for real problems. And verbal problems really don't lead to solutions for real problems. It's not like, knowing what we understand isn't important, it's not like knowing what words we use or terms isn't important. They can be useful. Our terms can tell us something about what we think, distinguishing things like maybe pleasure and joy, that might be useful. But it isn't ultimately necessary for anything other than just having just knowing what we mean. It's not like the meaning has any truer meaning than what we're giving it. We give these theories and our languages, which are theories, their meaning. So anyway, Popper, this was that essentialism, the problem of essentialism was something that Popper noticed was also a bad line of thought for trying to acquire knowledge. So yes, now I'll try to make it fairly simple. What Popper's solution was here and what his theory of knowledge says. Coming back to what we traditionally think, traditionally words like problems and mistakes sound bad. They're bad words. You don't want to make mistakes. You don't want problems. But the issue with that is that if you aren't making mistakes, and if you don't have problems, then how are you making progress? Popper pointed out that problem solving is really the thing that progress is about, and that reason is about, and that to solve problems, we have to know what mistakes we're making, and we have to correct those mistakes. And that the error-correcting process is actually where progress takes place. Now, again, recall the usual view of justification is not asking, how do we correct the mistakes? It's saying, how do I get it right? And like I said, this entrenches rather than always kind of looks critically at whatever ideas are found to contain some truth. So this is a massive revelation. I may not have communicated it as excitedly as the ideas demand, but let's see, what else can I say? And also that human nature is fallible. Our common sense views of knowledge tell us on some level that there is some kind of infallible process of deriving knowledge from the world, or authoritative process, but there is no such thing as that. There is no authority in regard to knowledge. And a lot of people thought, when they heard that, some interpretation of this solution of Popper's, they think that suddenly means, given that we can never be certain of anything, for example, that this sounds kind of just chaotic, that we can never be certain means we have to deal with uncertainty in such a way that we can never really know anything. But that is sort of true. But it's not that we can't know anything, though. It's just that we can never be certain of it. We can never be certain that it's true. And that kind of thing. And so this, again, is good because it allows for progress to take place. Because if we're certain, we probably will stop looking for better answers. If we are confident our idea is justified, we will protect it from being changed. And change is the whole point of progress, as it were, or just inextricable from making progress. And another thing here is that even those of us who prevent our ideas from changing mistakenly are doing so because we think that will lead to progress. But we're missing something pretty key there, I think. And so we all are good, even though we are maybe being authoritative with our knowledge. But we're good in the sense that we really do value truth on some level, even if you think that, for example, that objective truth doesn't exist. That's still some kind of truth value. But, at some point I imagine you would not want to keep talking to that person because they're denying their own existence. Should take that seriously, as all ideas should be taken seriously. But yes, so this is the kind of very messy layout of Popperian philosophy that I see here. The implications, as I said, are mind-bogglingly far-reaching, and I'm going to continue exploring those implications in future videos in the channel. And I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next time in the next video. All right, have a great day.